share with you a little health tip that I have. I research a lot on health items, and I wanted to encourage you to continue with your preparation of matzah. If you have started to prepare your own matzah at home, continue that, because you are preparing your own food, and it is free of the preservatives and whatnot that will be in regular breads that we buy. Yeast has an effect on the body. It has a debilitating effect on the body. It promotes inflammation. It can promote migraines, headaches, serious menstrual cramps. A lot of our young sisters need to know things like this as they're coming up, so that you can teach them how to prepare the matzah and avoid, that discomfort in their life. And so there's a lot of other illnesses that are associated with yeast that affect our lives, and we don't really know it or know how to pinpoint it because nobody has ever told us. So I would encourage you, to continue exploring matzah and how to prepare matzah at home with your family, with the children. They love to get into the flour and make a mess and all that. Just make an experience of it. And just know that it doesn't have to be nasty or gross, okay? The matzah that we prepared at home this week was delicious. It had rosemary and coriander. It had sage and all these different nice spices in it, and spices do encourage a better quality of life also, because they come with an abundance of nutrients. Also, we are bringing to your attention our May 5th Return to the Land, Hebrews Return to the Land, on May 5th. So we will be reaching out for your videos to find out what you've been doing in your garden, and adding them to our YouTube, so we can encourage family to grow and to maintain health. It's all about sustainability, right? So we have to start somewhere, and I would submit to you that the Feast of Unleavened Bread is a springboard. Yes. Springboard to a new beginning, and to understand what those new beginnings are, and being that we have cleared ourselves from the contaminants. Let's go forward with that same spirit in mind. We are going to continue to sanctify ourselves and our families, and our blessing will just be as good.
First, we'll pray for the males as customary, and then we'll pray for the females. Mi sheberach avotenu hakatoshim v'atahorim, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Moshe v'Aaron, David u'Shlomo, hu yevarek et hakolei. All the men of Beit Elohim, Larry Walker, Lawrence Jacob Walker, Baruch Simpson, Jason Mumblin, Sabian Mumblin, Walton Simpson, Robert James, Marcus Dunson and Son, Joshua Ben Zebulon, Eugene Wright, John Isaac, Gregory Johnson, Theodore Seeley, Adon Oriel Reuben, Adon Gabriel Yehuda, Lester Jack Sr., Lester Jack Jr., RAPHAELBENDAN, Avidor Cache, Sam Jackson, Willie Jackson, Anthony Becker, Tori Walls, Shamar Green, Ricky Martin, Tennyson Marchant, Omar Marchant, James Langer Jr., Ramliel Daniels, Neil Gurnali, and
you reign alone, and beside you there is no other God. And we thank you once again for allowing us to be able to gather before before you on this day. We acknowledge that there is no king beside you, and you've allowed us the opportunity to gather before you on this holy day. You have caused all the people upon the face of the earth to understand that there is none beside you. And we have come before you and we ask that your presence will be among us. And as we gather before you, we ask that you will bless us. Please give us strength. We also ask that you would heal us. For there is none else beside you that we can call upon. And we thank you once again for allowing us to reach the season that we have just completed. We understand that you are one that brought us out of Mitzrayim with your strong hand and with your outstretched arm. And it's because of that we have the memorial year by year, and you have commanded us to do so. And we ask that it was done according to your will. We thank you for all of the blessings that you put upon us. For besides you, there is none. And we thank you for the opportunity once again to stand before you in this place. And we know that the children of Israel are gathered before you all throughout the face of this earth. For you alone are the creator of the heavens and the earth. And besides you, there is no other. You are the one that sent Moshe your servant down in the Mitzrayim to speak to Paro. And you are the one that delivered us with your strong signs, with your wonders in the sight of the people of Israel. And even today we have scattered before you. So we ask that we obtain forgiveness for our iniquities, our transgressions, and our sins that we have committed before you. For we know that we have done evil in your sight. We know that our fathers have done evil in your sight. But you are the one that is a merciful God. You are the one that will pardon our iniquities, our transgressions, and our sins. And you are the one that will gather us before you once again and allow us the opportunity to return to that land that you have given us. So we pray that we are alive to see that day. So we thank you once again for allowing us to stand in this place. To be able to call upon your name and to acknowledge there is no king, no creator beside you. We ask once again that you would heal those who are sick among the children of Israel. That you would look down upon us, that you would look down upon us favorably. That all of the ailments that we have, that you would take away from us. All of the problems that we face, that you would allow us to overcome them. All of the things that are before us, that are stumbling blocks, we ask that you would clear the way from before us. So that we will be able to walk straight forward before you. Please clear our path before you. So that we can understand that there is none else beside you. So that we be able to call upon your name and to call upon your name in truth. But we are the ones that you've given truth to. We are the ones that you've given knowledge and understanding to. And we ask that your wisdom would be within us so that we would choose the right over the wrong. We would choose the good over the evil. We would choose the clean over the unclean. That we would walk upright before you and that there would be no stumbling blocks before us. So we thank you once again for allowing us to be able to stand before you in this place. We ask once again that you would forgive us for our sins. But as we walk before you, as we stand before you, that we also understand that we are counting the days before she walks, and that you will allow us the opportunity to reach that season where we'll be able to call upon your name once again, where we'll be able to gather before you in this place and in places such as this. We thank you once again for your presence amongst us. You are the one that is pulling us out of all of the places that we have been scattered. You will allow your people to stand strong all throughout the earth once again. And once again, we pray that we will see that day. We will be able to return to the land that you have given us. We will be able to rebuild the walls of your holy house. We will be able to come before you with the offerings that you've commanded us to bring before you. We will be able to do all of the things that are before us. But we thank you for your commandments, your statutes, and your judgments. For in your word will we live. For we know that it's not the bread that you have given us, but it's your word that causes us to live. So we ask you to give us the strength to be able to stand before you. For you have the power, you have the might, you have the strength. And we ask you to give it unto us so we may continue to walk before you. We thank you once again for allowing us to be able to call upon your name. We thank you for letting us be able to be in this place. And we thank you for letting us see generation after generation serve you even in this place, even in this congregation, even in Beit Elohim. For we know that this is the house of God, where people come before you and learn your word, learn your commandments, statutes, and judgments, and be able to call upon you continually. We thank you for all of the things you've done for us. We thank you for letting your presence be among us. For you have not taken your presence away from the children of Israel. But generation after generation, you allow us to call upon your name and be able to serve you. So we ask you to continue to give us the strength and the power to serve you. We know that we have sinned before you, but you are a God that is merciful. You are the God that will show us favor in your sight once again. And you are the one that will send us deliverer and allow us to return to the land that you've given us. We thank you for all of the might, all the strength, and all the power that you've displayed in our sight, even in our time. We thank you for all of the strength and the power and the might that you displayed before us, even in the land of Mitzrayim. We thank you for all of the might and the power that you displayed for us in the land of Canaan. For you are the one that led us to the desert, you are the one that opened up seas for us, so that we will be able to walk in dry ground and be able to enter into the land that you have given us. We thank you also for speaking to us on Mount Sinai and being able to give and giving us your commandments, your statutes, and your judgments. For you have selected us out of all of the people upon the face of the earth to be yours. And although we have broken the covenant that you made with our fathers, you have continued continue to keep that covenant even up until today. For you have not forgotten us, even though we have forgotten you. You have not let us go, even though we have let go of your hand. But we know that your hand is unchanging, and you will continue to walk. You will continue to allow us to walk with you. Please lift us up. Pick us up when we fall down. Strengthen us when we get weak. Empower us when we fall down. Please allow us, once again, to go upright before you to walk with you. For there is no God beside you, and there is no king beside you. You alone are the creator of the heaven and the earth, and beside you there is no God. We have no king, we have no savior. You are the one and the only, and beside you there is none. So we thank you once again for this opportunity to call upon your great, mighty, and glorious name, to be able to gather before you even in this place. And we ask once again that your presence would be with the children of Israel, that you would lift us up and allow us to move forward, to move with strength and the power that you have given us. We thank you for all of the things that you've done for all of us, before us, all of the strength that you displayed before us. For you are King, and you are mighty, and you are powerful. Blessed be your name, now and forevermore. Hallelujah!
Make peace in our heaven. Make peace for us. For yourself. Amen. Amen. Oh, say shalom. Oh, say shalom. Shalom. Our name.
celebrating the world's famous, we knew we know you could come forth on this day. On this high holiness. Did you feel the high holiness? Is it still with us, Israel? 7 days, we just getting started. We got a journey we're on, okay? 7 weeks. We've already completed the first week.
Hallelujah.
We got 6 more weeks to get to the mountaintop. Can we get there?
Yes.
Well, the Beth Elohim is going to help you get there. If you haven't heard the world's famous Beth Elohim Hebrew choir. Hallelujah. light. I am the light that shines in thee. Hashem say, oh, I am the light shining bright for the whole world to see. Now trouble time may come your way. You might not want to face another day. Just remember in all that you do, Hashem is with you and he'll see you through. For he said, I am the light. Hashem said, oh, I am the light. When times are good, don't forget from whence it came. Raise up your voice and proclaim his name. Share with others the things he gives to you. Let them know just what Yah can do. For he said, I am the light. Hashem said, oh, I am the light. Now I was down, I was lower than low. Looked around and didn't know where to go. Then his light came shining down on me. Lift me up and finally set me free. For he said, I am the light. Hashem say, oh, I am the light shining bright for the whole world to see. Hallelujah.
All birthdays in the house, come to the front, please. Any birthdays in the house, come to the front.
think she sang that a little extra good today. I'm feeling Tomeo right now. And of course, it'll carry over from the Pesach season. And we're talking about so completing yesterday, and we're going from one holy day to the next. So we thank the Most High because the blessings just keep on coming. And you know what God said? I have a blessing in store for you. All you got to do is follow my instructions. And you shall live in them. So we have someone special for you today. We have a special, we just feasted on some good vibrations, right? Now we're going to get some spiritual food and knowledge. That all the way from Brooklyn, New York. We got Rabbi Chief Benyamin. He's going to give us a message today as Rabbi Shlomo invited him to give us some good words of wisdom. And I see he also brought some backup with him. Just in case. Just in case. Just in case he don't do the job, then Moreh Youth Talk is going to step up. Alright, so they got us. Our friend, Chief.
Hallelujah. 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 You may be seated, giving praise and honor to the King of the universe. There is none else beside him. You can only have one king. Only one person on the throne. Only one creator. Only one master. See, we as human beings, we need help. You know, the males need the females, females need the males. But we serve Yah who needs none with him. He has no beginning, he has no end. He is the first and he is the last. Everything that is made, that we see up in the heavens and upon the earth beneath was made by him. And him alone. He didn't need anyone to help him. He didn't have to make a phone call. Sometimes we need to make phone calls. Sometimes we need to call 911. Sometimes we call 311. When we need to pay a phone bill, sometimes we call 611. But he calls no one. He doesn't need a phone. He doesn't need anything because he alone. When it was just him, he was good. But he decided to create the heavens and the earth anyway. And when he made the heavens and the earth, he saw that everything was good. He made everything in 6 days. The seventh day he ceased from all his work and everything was complete. See, we need time to make things. He just did his work in 6 days and then everything was stopped. Sometimes, we can't complete a job in 6 days. Sometimes we can't complete a job in 6 months. Sometimes it takes us more than 6 years to complete a job. But he did his work in 6 days and made everything, and everything was complete. He saw everything was good. It didn't need no additions. And he told us don't take away from it as well. And then when he put man upon the earth, we decided to do what we wanted to do. We decided to do evil. But then he called one person, he called Abraham our father. And he made a promise with him. And said that as long as he walked before him, before Yah, that he will bless him and his children after him forever. So we come from a lineage of people that serve the Most High. We come from a lineage of people that made sure that they walked straight before the Most High. We come from a lineage of people that made sure that everything was done correctly according to the word of the Most High. But somewhere along the line, we decided to, change things. We just decided, Gabby mentioned that there's instructions to life. And that's what today's, reading is about. Acharei Mot. There's a lot of instructions that we read about in the portion for today. But we thank the Most High once again for allowing us to gather here before him this day. And we ask that his presence would be here with us, that he would teach us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, that he would show us the way that we should walk before him, and that only his words and his words alone will come forth into the ears of the people. For we all need the truth, and we all need wisdom and understanding. Once again, showing respect to the leadership of this congregation, Rabbi Shlomo Ben, and showing respect to those that are here, his brother Rabbi Benyamin Ben, Gabby Azrael, and to Gabby Shlomo. And as we read in this, today's portion, that if we follow the instructions of God, if we follow the commandments of God, we will live by them. His commandments cause us to live. His commandments cause us to renew our strength. By living by his commandments, you can see that Shlomo's beard gets black every time I see it, because he's living by the command of God. He's getting older, his beard gets darker. I don't know how he does it, but I know it's the word of the Most High that is living within him. It ain't just for men. It ain't just for men. It's just for all of us, because all of us have to follow the commands of the Most High. And that's how we renew our strength. That's how we renew our days. That's how we get our health. We do have to live, we do have to live according to the word of the Most High. And we also have to, as it was, we received, health tip this morning. Yes. And it's important for us to make sure that we take care of ourselves. Yes. Because we know that Yah is the healer. Yes. But we have to make sure that as we follow his instructions, that everything else that we do will work. That, we can't ignore the commandments and then take all the medicine. The medicine's not going to work if the healer's not with you. So we have to walk with that healer. Because we have to pray to him. And also it says that, in Ben Sirach, that you pray to him and then you seek the physician. That doctors can't heal you. Doctors just do a job. It's the Most High that heals us. So we have to make sure that we follow his commandments, his statutes, and the judgments. And he has given us many instructions. And we have to understand that we are not the same as everybody else. That when we wake up in the morning, we give honor and glory to him. And then we say these words. You can say this: I am not like everybody else. Because even today, when we read it, he says that after the doings of the people of Egypt, when he brought us out, that those doings we should not do. There were things done in Egypt that, we started to assimilate in those ways. But the Most High said that we should not do after the ways of the Egyptians who he brought us out of. And also he told us that when we go into the land of Canaan, that we're going to see some things amongst the Canaanites. But he says, like the people of Canaan, we should not do their ways also. Because once again, we are not the same. So once again, we say, I am not the same. Because we understand that we are a holy people. So he has commanded us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. He even controls when we read the 18th chapter today. And you would think that, where are these type of instructions coming from? That the Most High could tell us who we could lay with and who not to lay with. He tells us when to lay with somebody and when not to lay with somebody. And that, no other book gives us those type of instructions. But we serve the Creator who created us. We serve the Creator who guides us. We serve the Creator who knows what's within us. He knows what's good for us and what's not good for us. So as long as we follow those commandments, then we know that we will be doing good in his sight. We have to do the right things at all times. So once again, he tells us not to do after the Egyptians. Because once again, we saw a lot of things that the Egyptians did. They did it, they were into incest. But we were commanded not to follow those ways. The Canaanites were into incest. But we were commanded not to follow those ways. The Egyptians were into homosexuality. But we were commanded not to follow those ways. The Canaanites were into homosexuality. But we were commanded not to follow those ways. And that's just not for that time, but that's for this time today. Because those commandments will keep us alive forever. So we have to make sure even today, the Most High tells us, leave somebody else's wife alone because that's that person's wife. If you're a man, leave that man alone because he's like you. Don't lay with man as with womankind. Because that's what the Most High God has commanded us to stay away from. And even in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, they were laying with beasts just like they lay with beasts in this land today. And the Most High commanded us not to lay with beasts. That's right. And we just, it's not like Nike. We're not supposed to do it. We live in a land that says just do it. The Most High says do not do it. And that's the way that we have to make sure that we live because the Most High has created us. He has put his spirit within us and allowed us to gather before him on this day. He has allowed us to come into places like this. So we should, once we come into places like this, we should not return to the ways that we were doing before we got here. The Most High God has called us into a place that will allow us to live forever. And allow us to, live forever and turn generation after generation if we continue to teach our generations after us the way that we're supposed to live before the Most High God. Because once again, he has given us the power and the strength to stand on this earth that he has created. He has made us a special people once again, because once again, I am not the same. Because we're separated from all the people upon the face of the earth. So he has given us his word to make sure that we follow his commandments forever. And he also, once again, commanded us what to do, when to do it, and where to do it. Because we know that as we're not in the land that he has given us, that we are not allowed to sacrifice in these places. Because he said that as the doings of Egypt and even in the doings of the desert, we're not supposed to do those things in the land of Israel. But he commanded us that in a certain place, that's the place where we bring forth our offerings. And he commanded us that once we spread abroad, that we're not supposed to sacrifice in any place that we decide to sacrifice. So we also understand that he has chosen a holy land, he has chosen a holy city, he has chosen a holy house. And that's the place that we must gather before him and bring forth our offerings. But in lieu of not being in that land doesn't mean that we're not supposed to keep the rest of the commandments, statutes, and judgments. Because those commandments that were given to us are supposed to be done wherever we do it. So that's why we still keep the Sabbath day holy today. That's why we make sure that we keep Chag the first day and the seventh day. And we thank the Most High for allowing us to reach the season and be able to keep the season of Chag. Be able to, purify our homes from the leavening that he commanded us to remove from our homes. And also allowing us to remove the leavening from our body, as was mentioned earlier, because, the diet that we lived by back then was very beneficial for us. As it was mentioned that, the diet that we live by today causes a lot of inflammation. And when you look up inflammation, that was, that word causes a lot of problems in our bodies. Just the inflammation alone. Whether it's the cancer, whether it's the respiratory ailments, whether it's sciatica, all ailments and problems come from inflammation. So we have to be careful of what we eat. We have to be very careful of what we take into our bodies because we want to make sure that we live. We want to make sure that we live in the way that the Most High God has commanded us to live. Because he has commanded us what to eat and what not to eat. He told us we should not eat with the blood, even as we read today. Because the blood of animals would also cause inflammation within our bodies. But he didn't have to tell us why we're not supposed to do that. We're just supposed to do it. He said don't eat blood, don't eat the blood. But when people look at it today, they say like the blood, external blood coming into your body causes problems. So that's why we have to make sure that when we eat meat, that we have to make sure that all of that blood comes out of it. Because once that blood mixes with our blood, that will cause inflammation. And that's what will cause a lot of problems in our lives. So just by disobedience, it could cause problems. So the Most High God has also commanded us, don't eat of any animal that has died of itself. If you didn't slaughter it, then you're not supposed to eat it. Because you don't know what type of, rigor mortis started to set within that animal that died of itself, that once you eat that will cause inflammation within your body once again. And the inflammation causes diseases. Once again, we have the problems with cancer in our community. We have the problem with, once again, respiratory diseases in our community. And we, once again, whether it's nerve damage through, like I said, sciatica or any other thing, those come into our body from inflammation. But the Most High has already commanded us the way that we're supposed to live before him. And those instructions will keep us living before him. And even if we, we turn away from him, he has given us a way that we can return to him once again. For we read also in this portion that he allows us to confess our sins once in a year. He doesn't allow us the opportunity to go a year without having the opportunity to return to him. So if we were dwelling in the land, the priest, the high priest, would perform a ritual that would allow us to have sin taken away from us. He would allow us the opportunity to confess our sins before the Most High and to get back on that track once again, so that if we did fall off throughout the year, we would be able to get back on track. And he already commanded us even before that time. And Aaron was supposed to, perform that procedure. And also think about the character of Aaron, because once again, when we think about the beginning of the portion, it says Acharei Mot. So that's after the death of his two sons, Nadab and Abihu. That even with his two sons dying, performing a job that they thought that was right in the sight of the Most High, Aaron still had to continue on with his job. So we have to learn from that message as well. That whatever obstacles come in our way, we have to make sure that we continue on with our job. That he didn't have time to mourn, he didn't have time to complain, he didn't have time to stop. After the death of his sons, God told him, this is what you're supposed to do once in a year. And he heard the word of the Most High, as it says, that he performed the word of the Most High. So we thank the Most High for this season that we just passed, and we pray that we are alive to see the season that we read about today, Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement, where we would have the opportunity to confess our sins before the Most High. But every day that we wake up, we're supposed to confess our sins. Don't wait until the 7th month. You can do it in the 1st month. You can do it in the 3rd month. You can do it in the 10th month. You can do it in any month. But if you don't think you can wait till the 7th month, because sometimes you may not have that time. That cleansing is for the entire nation as a whole. But we have the opportunity. You open up your eyes every day. You're able to go forth. You're able to eat food. We thank the Most High for allowing us to have food to eat. Whether we didn't have the leaven in this past week, but that's okay because we're still alive. And as it was said, you don't have to rush back into the leavening, because you start pumping stuff back into your body after you wean yourself off of it. You know, you bring in that inflammation and that problem right back into your body once again. Just like after Yom Kippur, you confess your sins. Don't jump right back into that once again. And make sure you stay away from that as much as possible, because it's all about moving forward. It's all about making progress. It's all about walking with the Most High in a manner that He wants us to walk with Him. So because we do thank Him for allowing us to gather before Him. We ask that His presence will always be among us. And we know that even though those, as you know, in this house, you know, you honor the memory of your father, Rabbi Levi. But he's always going to be alive as long as his children are alive doing the command of the Most High. His children are alive keeping this house alive going. His children are alive keeping the name of Yah alive going. His children are alive making sure that their children are living in this way as well. So that's why generation after generation, that legacy will continue to go on. So his legacy will never die as long as his children continue that legacy. Just like our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, their legacy will never die as long as we're alive keeping that legacy going. And we also have to acknowledge that we did break the break the covenant of God. But we have the opportunity to return back. We have the opportunity to repair that breach. We have the opportunity to stand strong with Him. And we have the opportunity to make it known to all the earth that there is no God besides the God that we serve. There is no king besides the king that we serve. There is no savior besides the savior that we serve. Because the nations of the earth just finished celebrating the death and the birth of their God. But we serve a God that lives, that was never born, that would never die, that never cried out, that never asked for help, that was never confused about His mission. Because He's the one that set His own mission. The nations of the earth are confused right now. But it's our responsibility to make sure that we take that confusion away from the people. It's our responsibility to make sure that we deliver the word of the Most High to the people. It's our responsibility to be a light to the nations. And when we shine that light, it doesn't take away from our light. Because it's like a candle. A candle could light another candle and still keep its light going. So we have to always make sure that our fire continues to be burned, continues burning. But we have to make sure that somebody else's candle is burning as well. We have to make sure that other people receive the truth. This is not something that we lock in for ourselves. This is not just the season that we just passed. Is not a season that the world is supposed to understand as a Jewish holiday. It's not a season that people are supposed to understand that it's a European custom. It's not a season that people are supposed to understand that it's something that they do. It's supposed to be a season that people understand that it's something that we are supposed to do. As it mentioned that the homeborn as well as the stranger. All of the people upon the earth are supposed to serve the Most High. We're supposed to make sure that people understand that it was our deliverance that the Most High brought us out of Mitzrayim. We're supposed to make people understand that it was us that He has chosen. So it's no longer are we supposed to be dwelling in darkness. It's no longer that we're supposed to be dwelling without light. It's no longer that we're supposed to be living like the way that we're living, but the Most High has given us the opportunity to go forth and open up places of worship. So as we open up places of worship, we're supposed to go forth and make sure that His light shines throughout all the earth. We have to make sure that His word goes throughout all the earth. And they will understand that when they read the Holy Scriptures, that they will understand that these Scriptures are holy, and these Scriptures contain instructions that we're supposed to live by. Because the nations are going aside from what we read today, that they are facing the problems that they're facing. God told us that if we didn't follow those commands, the land would vomit us out. And because we didn't follow those words, the land vomited us out. So now we're vomited into another land. So now if we continue not to do the word that He's commanded us, there's no more land to vomit us out. There's only one place for us to go, and that's under the land. Because as we were kicked out of the land, if we don't do these words in return, then we're going to go under the dirt. So we have to make sure that we live the righteous life in the sight of the Most High. And once again, not be ashamed, because once again, the nations of the earth are going contrary to the word of God. They are allowing things such as incest to proliferate in this country. They're allowing homosexuality to proliferate in this country. They're allowing bestiality to proliferate in this country. And it's all around us. And they're trying to make us accept it. They're trying to make our children accept it. But we're not supposed to accept anything other than the word of God. We're not supposed to accept anything other than His teachings and His instructions. We're supposed to combat and fight against all evil. And once you fight against evil, the Most High will be with you. There's nothing there's no one that can come against us. As it said in Isaiah, there's no weapon formed against us and that will prosper. But that's only for those that live righteously. Because remember that a lot of people quote that first part, but we forget about the second part. You have to live righteously in order for those weapons that are formed against you not to prosper. If you're not living righteously, then only one weapon could be formed against you and take over you. But if you're living righteously, no weapon, because the weapons are still going to be formed. And that's what that verse is trying to tell us. The weapons will still be formed. It's not like you live righteously and everybody's just going to leave you alone. Because the Most High wants us to trust in Him. So we're going to face complications. We're going to face troubles. Even no matter how good you live, you may get some sickness. You may get an ailment. You may get into a problem. You may get into a challenge. But that's what the Most High can show you His glory by allowing you to get through that. Because once you get through that, then you'll be able to give praise to Him and thank Him and let Him know and testify that He was the one that brought you through it. You ever been in a plane and go through some turbulence? That's how we go through life. And then when you land, what do you think about? And that's the same thing when your life. When you go through that turbulence in life, the Most High wants you to give Him praise. It's just like on the other side, when we read about what happened to Pharaoh in Egypt. Within those 10 plagues, God said that He held Pharaoh up in order to keep knocking him down. He held him up to let him know His glory. He held Pharaoh up to let him know and let us know, the children of Israel know that God is with us. Because He made a difference between Israel and Egypt. He caused the latter plagues to fall upon Egypt, and He protected us and shielded us from all of that. So if we walk with the Most High, and we're living in a time where there's a lot of confusion, bombings going in mosques, bombings going in churches, even bombings going in synagogues. But none of those bombings will touch the houses of Israel if we walk with the Most High. We walk with Him, and we have to make sure in walking with Him we keep His commandments, statutes, and judgments. And that's how we're protected. That's how we don't have the tragedies that the world is facing. Because God is making sure that He's hiding us. As it said in Zephaniah, He will hide us in the time of trouble. But that hiding in the time of trouble is only for those that live righteously. That hiding in the time of trouble is only for those that live good. So we have to live righteously. We have to live good in the sight of the Most High. We have to make sure that His word is always in our lips. That we always meditate in His word. Even day and night.
Hallelujah.
He told that word to Joshua. He said if you meditate, God said, if told Joshua, if you meditate in my word day and night, he would achieve success and prosperity. But if you think He told that to Joshua, how do you think that's going to work for us as well? If we meditate in His word day and night, then we would achieve success and prosperity also. So if there's some success that you're looking forward to, don't think that you can just do it without God. If you're trying to obtain prosperity in life, don't think that you can do it without the Most High. You have to meditate in His word, and by meditating in His word means that you're doing His word and applying His word to your life. That once again, we're starting to read this week and even next week about a lot of commandments that we can live by and do today. And if we're living by those words, then we are protected from all evil. If we are living by those words, then we're protected from harm. If we're living by those words, then the Most High will build us up, He will lift us up and allow us to move forward. And allow us to continue to give praise and honor unto Him. So once again, we read about a lot of the commandments, the statutes, and judgments that were given unto us. So once we read these words, we have to make sure that we don't do any of the things that the Most High commanded us not to do. We have to make sure that we live in righteousness. But once again, if we did fall into those traps, if we were out there in the world, that we know that we have the opportunity to repent. We have the opportunity to confess our sins before Him. Because He's a merciful God. He's the one that, He will hear our prayers and our supplications. There is no pit that we can fall into that He cannot pick us out of. There's no point in your life that you can fall down to that He can't lift you up from. He can reach you from anywhere because He's the one that made everywhere. So there's no place you can fall that He's not there. No hidden place. But once you fall into that place, just know that you can call upon Him. And make sure that you live righteously, that He can hear your prayers. And make sure also that you spread His word to other people as well. Because we are the ones that He uses to pick other people up. Just like people try to put us down, we are the ones that are supposed to pick people up. When you see someone that is fallen, you make sure that you pick them up. Because you're the one that the Most High is sending to pick up that person. Just like when we fall down and we say and we understand that He picks us up, He uses somebody else to pick us up. So if you had that understanding and you see someone else that has fallen down, use your strength and your power to pick someone up as well. Make sure that if you see someone in a place that they're not supposed to be in, that you pull them up out of that place. That no matter how much, the world starves people down, that we make sure that we maintain our value. Gold is always going to be gold. Whether it's a large nugget, whether it's gold dust, it still maintains its value. Whether it's diamonds, a diamond can be large, they can crush it, it still maintains its value. The children of Israel, we always will maintain our value. No matter how much the world tries to stomp us down, no matter how much time they try to push us down, no matter how much time they try to push us aside, we will always maintain our value in the sight of the Most High. Because he said that we are his firstborn. And there's nothing that can be done to take away the status that we have from the Most High. We will always be his firstborn. But we could choose to be a good firstborn or an evil firstborn. Choose life and live. But if you choose the cursing, then you would die. So we have to make sure that we choose that life. We have to choose the blessing. We have to choose good. We have to choose righteousness. We have to choose holiness. We have to choose cleanliness. We have to make sure that, as it says today, we make a difference between the clean and the unclean. And he has already taught us what is clean and what is unclean. He already told us what to do, where to do, when to do it, and how to do it. We just have to make sure that we do it according to the way that he wants it to be done. And once we follow those instructions, we will continue to live. Just like when you buy any type of, you buy a vehicle, you read the instructions to find out how to operate it. And when you drive on the road, there's instructions, there's an operator's manual, and if you don't follow those rules, you get tickets or you can go to jail. So these commandments are those instructions. These instructions are our manual for us to live. This manual that he has given us causes us not to get those infractions, not to get those points. Because after you accumulate a certain amount of points, your license gets taken away from you. So when we don't follow the commandments, we start to accumulate points that causes our life to be taken away from us. But if we want our life given back to us, if we want to make sure that we continue to live on, we have to make sure that we follow the commandments, and then those points start to reduce. This is our defensive driving course right here. You take that defensive driving course and you take some points off your license. Get those points off, because you don't want to accumulate too much points. So he has given us everything that we need. We just have to follow it in the way that he wants us to follow it. Because it is plain and simple. He makes sure that he tells us don't add to it, don't take away from it. And we have to make sure that we do as Aaron did, continue to keep that job going. Maintain on that path that he has given us. That regardless of what obstacles come in our way, we continue to follow that path. Because once again, Aaron, we know that it hurt him. We know that seeing the death of his two sons hurt him. And they thought that they were doing a good thing. They just finished, their installation as priests. They just completed, the 7-day, procedure for them to become priests and be able to officiate in the sight of the Most High. So all they wanted to do was give thanks to God by giving an offering. But the offering was not commanded by God. And no matter how close they got to the Most High, God took their life for doing something that they were not commanded to do. So imagine if he would do that to priests in the time of their joy, in the time that they were just given their job, in a time where the entire nation was looking upon them. Imagine what he would do to us. Because the Most High wants us to follow his commandments the way that he wants us to follow them. That we don't add to them or take away from them. So Nadab and Abihu, they thought they were doing a good thing. They thought that they were doing the right thing. They thought they were giving praise to God in what they were doing. But it was nowhere in their manual that they were supposed to do what they did. They offered up a strange fire that was not in the manual that was just given to them. And the manual was just given to them throughout those 7 days. And because they didn't follow those instructions, their life was taken away from them. So we can... the strange fire was just a fire that was not commanded of them. Because when we read in the book, from the beginning of Leviticus, or from 1 all the way, they were commanded to do burnt offerings, the sin offerings, the meal offerings. They were commanded how to do them and when to do them. With the incense, they were commanded to put the incense upon the incense altar in the morning and in the evening. What they offered was something that was not in that manual. So that's why it was called strange. Because it was something, it also specifically said it was a strange fire that was not commanded of them. So because they did something that was not commanded of them, they did something on their own. They were punished for what they did. So we're supposed to make sure that we follow the instructions the way that we are commanded to do them. that we make sure that we don't add to his word or take away from it. We don't do things that are not commanded of us and say that this is the word of God. Because the Most High would take our lives if we do so. But Aaron had to continue on with his job. He had to learn the instructions of what to do on Yom Kippur, on that Day of Atonement. He had the opportunity to confess the sins of the children of Israel, but he had to make sure that he was clean first. Because when we see the offerings and the way that they were structured, it said that he had to do the offering for him and his household first. See, we can't be a people that go out and judge the world without judging ourselves first. We can't be a people that go out and try to clean the world and don't clean ourselves first. You can't go to somebody else's house and talk about how their kitchen is dirty, but you got dishes piled up in your sink. That's why the Most High doesn't want us to do. He wants to make sure that we clean ourselves first. So we clean ourselves first, then you can worry about somebody else. Just like you don't look at somebody else's grass and say that their grass is greener. You can get something for your grass. Cut your grass down. Get some of that miracle growth and take care of your grass. And then worry about what you got in your house and around your house. Then you can worry about somebody else's house. So the priest had to go forth. Aaron had to go forth and present the sin offering for him and his household first. Then once God accepted that, then he would present the sin offering for the children of Israel. So we understand that we are supposed to be a light to the nation. So we can't condemn people for their sins and have sin in our midst. We can't go forth and talk about how the nation is evil and how people are serving false gods, but we have false gods in our midst. We have to make sure that we clean our houses first. We have to make sure that we take care of our congregations. We have to make sure that we take care of the nation and make sure that sin is taken away from us. Then we can go forth and talk about what everybody else is doing. Because as long as everybody's living in sin, we all fall into that same pot that they fall into. But God has given us the opportunity. And when I talk about us, I'm talking about us in this room. Us in the congregations that he's allowing to gather before him on this holy day. Because there are many of the children of Israel that do not have this opportunity. There are many people that we could just walk outside right now. People are going to the stores next door, going to the stores across the street. People are going to work today. People are washing their cars. People are doing all of the things that they want to do on this day. But he has chosen us and given us an opportunity to cease from all work and give all glory and honor to him. He has given us the opportunity once again to go through the season that we just went by. Not, while we were not eating leaven, many of our people were eating leaven. So we have to consider that we have to also do a better job. That we're supposed to make sure that we're not just doing these commandments for ourselves, but we're doing it for all of the people. We're doing it for all of the nation of Israel. That we invite people to our houses of worship. That we invite people to Passover. That we invite people to Shavuot. We invite people to Sukkot. All of the holy seasons that Most High God has given us, we invite people to. And we teach them. Because once again, we have to make sure that we clean our homes. And our homes is the entire nation before we start worrying about the other nations. So Aaron had to go through his procedure in order to cleanse the nation of Israel. Because God also knew that no matter how holy the house that is going to be built is, that our uncleannesses will contaminate that house. But he didn't kill everybody that walked into there unclean. So he gave a procedure that would allow that house to be cleansed once a year. Because when we think about the Day of Atonement, we think about it just as a day of confessing sin, and that we're supposed to be clean from sin, and that's it. That day was also given to purify that house. Because we're going to go in and out of that house with uncleannesses that we don't know about. So God gives an opportunity for that house to be cleansed. Amen. So we thank God for being a God that allows us to become clean. We thank Him for being a God that allows us to pick ourselves up when we fall down. Because once again, He doesn't allow us to go through a full year with all of those uncleannesses and all of those sins upon us. But day by day, once again, we have the opportunity to clean ourselves. Day by day, we have the opportunity as we wake up to give thanks unto Him. Day by day, we have the opportunity to give praise and honor unto Him and to acknowledge that He is allowing us to clean ourselves. But He is the one that does the purifying. He is the one that does the cleansing. He is the one that does the healing. He is the one that will lift us up. He is the one that will take care of all of our needs if we take care of the things that He gives unto us. So once again, we have to make sure that we take care of ourselves by following the commandments, take care of ourselves by following the instructions that He has given us, and not eating blood, and not eating animals that die themselves, and also not doing all of those sexual perversions that we read about in this week's portion. Because once we don't do it, then we will live. As it said that when we follow those commandments, we will live by them. He said that we are special amongst all the people on the face of the earth. And the portion concludes in Leviticus 18, God says that defile not yourselves in any of these things. For in all of these, the nations were defiled, which I cast out before you. So you let us know that the Canaanite nations were taken out of the land, not because we were great people, but because they were doing those abominations in that land. So he said, for all of these things, the nations were defiled, which I cast out before you, and the land was defiled. Therefore I do punish its iniquity upon you, and the land vomits out her inhabitants. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourns among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, who were before you, and the land is defiled, that the land vomit not you out also, when you defile it, as it has vomited out the nations that were before you. For whoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the persons that commit them, shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore shall you keep my ordinance, that you commit not any one of these abominable customs which were practiced before you, and that you defile not yourself in them. I am Yah, your God. So we understand that there is only one God. We understand that there's only one King, and we understand there's only one Creator. So we thank, once again, we thank Him for allowing us to gather before Him and to give praise and honor unto Him. And thanking Him for the opportunity to speak before the people this day. Thanking Him for the opportunity to open up the Word day by day. Thanking Him for the opportunity to live understanding truth. But He has not allowed us to live in darkness. So thanking Him for all that He has done for us. And as Shabbath Acharei, I guess He has given me permission to do so. I'm going to call up someone from Queens. He's from Brooklyn originally, but he's in Queens now. Called up to hear, we're going to hear from RAPHAELBENDAN.
Rabbi Benyamin did a great job. Mori Yitzhak is not coming as a backup. He's just coming on his own to give us some good work.
And I'm also doing that because Rabbi Shalom, as I mentioned yesterday, he likes to call me up before food time. So I won't be to blame of being the distance between you and food. Take it up with Mori Yitzhak at this time. But we do thank the Most High for allowing us to have food to eat. There are many people that are hungry today. And it's also our responsibility to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, and to shelter the homeless. Hallelujah.
Please be seated. Continuous praise to the Most High God, King of heaven and earth, even the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Israel. I bid you all in the tongue of our forefathers, Shabbat Shalom again. So how's everybody doing this day? I love the spirit in here. It's a beautiful thing. You know, he caught me off guard. He said somebody from Queens, from Brooklyn. So I was like, okay, Queens. He knows I was born in Brooklyn. He knows that. It's all right. And so I wanted to read the 103rd Psalm.
Oh, beautiful.
It's actually my favorite psalm. So I'm going to use my phone for the translation. How was everybody's feast?
Joyous.
I'm still adjusting to that unleavened bread, y'all. I gotta admit it. That unleavened bread, you know, it's what the Most High God commanded. But it teaches us about not having what you want when you want it. It teaches us about when God calls, even though you had something in mind, you may have thought you was going to eat a certain way. When salvation comes, it's time to adjust. And so I constantly remind myself that this season is about adjustment. This season is about us changing our ways so that we understand that when God calls us and it's time for us to get closer to Him, it's not the way you want it, It's the way He wants it. It's for us to understand that all roads to our desires aren't through our stomach now, is it?
No, right, teach.
We've been taught that eating a certain way makes us happy. And very much that eating is a culture that we stop and we do when we communicate, right? But even our God said that man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of His mouth. And so, as we come out of the season of Passover, I want us to remember, our God, it wasn't a light thing what our God did for us. He took every male of this nation. He said that lamb that was sacrificed, that would have been one of the firstborn in your household that I would have took if I didn't choose a certain people. And so it's a reminder to us that God thinks a special thing of us. He wants us to live a certain way, to be a certain way, and to never, ever, ever take advantage of a minute of your life that He's giving you breath. I was listening to the rabbi, I've been dealing with a health issue for getting close to 2 years now. And the thing about youth is you think you always feel good. You think you'll always be on top of the world. No, and I've boasted for years. People kept telling me, like, you're getting old now, right? Forget it. Take that for somebody else. I'll be forever 21. Brush your shoulders off, all that other stuff. And then it hits. And then you're like, all right, you're waiting for the pain to go away, right? Because when you're younger, it happens and it goes. It comes and it goes. So it's like, all right. And then morning after I woke up, I was like, man, I'm still dealing with this? Like, oh my goodness. And then I had to stop and say to myself, it's like, what makes you so special? What makes you different from any other man? And so as I listen to him talk about how God gives us trials and tribulations, and we think about Job, are you going to curse God now? Are you going to stop and wallow in all your misery because you feel a little bit of pain? Because the reality is that there's a lot of people feeling a whole lot more pain than I'm feeling. Are you going to wallow in it and stop and say to yourself, oh God, well, why are you doing this to me? What did I do? And now this is what we do. God gives us a little bit of a smack, and we like, did I do this? Did I do that? Did I do that? Or was it when I did that, and that? And I thought God forgave me because Yom Kippur passed, because the Day of Atonement passed? Or is that the time to become stronger in your faith? And to stop and say to yourself, I understand I'm going through this, but God is going to lead me through it. Hallelujah. I understand that I'm feeling some pain, but God is going to lead me through it. And maybe God is giving me this pain right now to show me just how strong I can be. But if you don't pray to Him, you won't know that. If you don't meditate in His law day and night, you won't know that. If you don't look to your examples, if you don't look to Abraham, if you don't look to Yitzchak, if you don't look to Yaakov, if you don't look to Moses, if you don't look to Job, at the very least, look in the mirror and see what God has made you. See how God is dealing with you. Because even though Abraham had his trials, he got his blessing for the season of life that he was in. Even though David had his trials, King David, he got his blessing for the season of life that he was in. And so as I talked to my brother this morning, I talked to him about the seasons of life that we're in. What season of life are you in right now? Because my season of life is not your season of life. And so what I'm going through is not what you're going through. But it's the season of life that is always the same, that we're here to uplift one another. David said, I've been young and I've been old. He understood the seasons of life that he was in. But what was the constant? I've never seen the righteous forsaken. Stop right there. I have never seen the righteous forsaken. Because no matter what you're going through, no matter how deep your darkest hour you may feel you're going through, God is there. The righteous will never be forsaken. As long as you follow that manual. That's what you said, right? The manual. Do the laws, the statutes, the commandments, and the judgments of the Most High God. It gets dark to us sometimes because we don't understand what's happening. Our darkest hour, when we can't stop and understand how we'll get out of the situation. I tell people, and I'm never ashamed to share my story. You know, as a young man, I thought child support was the worst thing in the world. How am I going to live? I got to give up my money for this, that, and another. And it's like, oh man, and somebody told me, it was like, listen, just don't worry about it. Just continue to work and do what you got to do. And so, for me, it was child support. For a lot of other people, it's debt. We look at debt, and we're like, oh my goodness, it's the end of the world. Right? And so, my mother, who I love dearly, she told me, she said, listen, don't worry about debt. Because guess what? When you die, it's over. Pay what you can, when you can, but what? Live your life. Debt is going to happen. This society is built on debt. Now listen, all you young people, I'm telling you right now, I'm not telling you to go into a world of debt. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you assume some debt, you pay it off, and you assume some more debt. That's the way of the world that we live in. Some people will have a little bit more debt than others. You want to buy a home? You want to buy a building? We're outgrowing our walls. What do you think you're going to do? Go into debt. And so if you worry about the dollar signs, instead of concentrating on how the Most High God is going to get you through these situations, you'll never give him the true glory that's due unto him. Because can God take away all your debt?
Oh, yes.
How quick?
Oh, yes.
In an instant. In an instant, he can take all your problems away. The very thing that you thought was bothering you can be gone that quickly. And as quickly as he takes it away from you, he can bring it back to you. But you got to have trust. You got to believe. You have to have that Hebrew word called ne'eman. What does ne'eman mean? Faith. It is faith.
Amen.
We must have faith and we must have trust in our God. Let's turn to the 103rd Psalm and let's see what it has to say. It says, a Psalm of David. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. And that's what I talked about, right? Everything that he does for us. The good as well as the bad. When he heals you, we complain when he brings us down, but when he heals us, now it's like, oh yes, God. But when he brings you down, give God the glory also. Who forgives all thine iniquity, who heals all thy diseases, who redeems thy life from the pit, who encompasses thee with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfies thine old age with good things, so that the youth is renewed like the eagle. Oftentimes, we don't appreciate things while we're young. While we're young, we take advantage of it. We take it for granted. Excuse me. Then when we get older, and I ain't there yet, but I've seen it. As people get older, you begin to appreciate the little things in life. One of the things I'm learning to appreciate, peace. It took me a very long time to understand peace and not wanting to be around drama or drama-filled individuals It became so easier for me to walk away from an argument and not worry about people thinking that I'm acting funny or that I've changed or that I'm looking down on them. It's like, listen, you want to argue, you have some drama right now? Okay, fine. No problem. Carry on. When people say, people feel like you're giving up on them. I'm not giving up on you. I love you. But I need you to understand that my peace is more important than your drama-filled day. It goes on in the 6th verse and it says, the Lord executes righteousness and acts of justice for all that are oppressed. No matter what you think you're going through, God can take you out of it. He made known his ways unto Moses, his doings unto the children of Israel. Now hear this, Israel. The Lord is full of compassion and gracious, slow to anger, and plenteous in mercy. And what did I just say? He will not always contend, neither will he keep his anger forever. He won't always go back and forth with us. He won't always ask you to do his law. He won't always, and I want us to understand this, he won't always give you a judgment or a sign that lets you know you're doing wrong. Because every once in a while, he gives up on us. And I want us to understand that. We read about Saul. And King Saul was a man who was accepted of God. That the Most High God sent a prophet to reassure him that he was chosen to be king of Israel. But when Saul messed up, what happened? That was it for him. He didn't even hear the word of God anymore. He didn't hear the voice anymore. And that scared Saul, because he knew that he was no longer accepted. However, he has not dealt with us after our sins, nor requited us according to our iniquities. Don't raise your hands. Internally ask yourself, have I ever done anything worthy of death? Have I done anything worthy of the Most High's immediate judgment, knowingly or unknowingly? And then stop and ask yourself, why has God still chosen me? Know that you're sitting in seats like these for a reason. For as the heaven is high above the earth, so great is his mercy toward them that fear him. That's why you're here. Your fear for the Most High God is the reason that you're here. Your fear of the commandments, the fact that you smited your hip, that you said to yourself, I did that and that's worthy of death, and I'm not doing that ever again. I refuse to walk back in my iniquities. I should have known better. I'm glad that God put it into my mind to make me realize I'm not going to do like that again. Amen. Why? Because his very name is worthy. God is worthy of our obedience, you know. God is worthy of our prayers. God is worthy of our worship to him and our service to one another. It's important to uplift one another. We've been selfish for far too long. We desire a unified nation. We desire a nation united under the Most High God. Yet, we remain to be self-serving. I tell my congregation this all the time. The same way you desire for people to come through your doors is the same way somebody else desires for you to come through their doors. And the same way you like to feel welcome when you come through a place, make sure people feel welcome when you go to their place. And vice versa. Y'all understand what I mean? Okay. It's a thing where unity is not something that the Most High God just touches our mind and that we automatically get it. Unity is something that has to be practiced.
Yes, yes.
And you can't have unity if you don't have love for your brother or for your sister.
Amen.
And I'm not talking about forced love or for yourself. RAPHAELBENDAN. I'm not talking about forced love. I'm not talking about feigned love. I'm talking about genuine love that we have for one another.
Yes.
You had a birthday in here today, right?
Yes.
I love the fact that that sister had a birthday. Let's give her a round of applause. Not that we're giving more honor and praise to God, because in celebrating birthdays, we give honor to God because God continues to grant life. So of course we can do that on the Shabbat day. And when we stop and we see that somebody's happy, that we celebrate one another, let's keep that going. Let's bring it around. When the king stopped and he celebrated on the new moon,
Okay.
the fact that we should eat before God, and he gave his portion, talking about Saul, talking about David, we were celebrating the fact that God gave another day of life, another month of life, another year of life. Let's celebrate one another. See, we've been coming back to God in bits and pieces because we slept in the dust of the earth for far too long. And we've been looking to other people to learn how to serve God when serving God was well within us. And so I know we're getting hungry. I'm going to get through it. I know we're getting hungry. I'm hungry too, trust me. So let me read. Verse 12. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. So let's not wallow in our pity, Israel. Like as a father has compassion upon his children, so has Jehovah compassion upon them that fear him. For he knows our frame. He remembers that we are but dust. As for a man, his days are as grass. As a flower of the field, so he flourishes. For the wind passes over it, and it is gone, and the place thereof knows it no more. But the mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting upon them that fear him, and his righteousness unto children's children. Our grandchildren, right? It's not just us. That's our grandchildren. You know, I speak about fathers being fathers. And you know, as black men, quote unquote black men, right?
Talk about it.
There was a season and a time that we seen our fathers and our fathers' fathers, and we seen base individuals that forsook their families because they had a problem with a woman, or because they felt that they wanted to move on. But the reality is that child that you birthed, that is your future. That is the person that is going to help build this nation. And you can't say that you're about nation if you're not about family. And you can't say that you're about family if you're not about the children that you sired under whatever conditions you sired them under. And so I talk about the man Yiftach, right? Yiftach. And the Tanakh. Listen, not that I promote it, but he had a child with a harlot. There's dark parts of our history. It is what it is. But what did he do with that child? He took that child and he brought it onto his inheritance. Because that child was his family, and that child that he could have stopped and said, oh, well, she's the child of X, Y, and Z, and that's what the rest of his family was saying, right? His wife and his other children. And that child went on to become a judge in Israel. That's why it's important not to judge one another based on mistakes that people have made in the past. We understand that people made mistakes, but it's our job to correct our mistakes. And so as I read the last parts of this song, it says, the Lord has established his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom ruleth over all. Bless the Lord, ye angels of his, ye mighty in strength, that fulfill his word, hearkening unto the voice of his word. Bless Jehovah, all ye his hosts, ye ministers of his. Let me say that one more time. Ye ministers of his, that do his pleasure. Bless the Lord, all ye his works, and all places of his dominion. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Hear the word of God. Listen to the voice of God. Apply it to your life. Apply it to one another. I'm glad that you brothers and sisters are here this day, that I've been invited up to speak the words that the Most High God would have me to speak this day. To Rabbi Shalomo, to all the leadership of this house, to brothers and sisters and elders alike, I love you all, I thank you for your time and attention. Glory and honor to the Lord. Hallelujah.
We still have a few more minutes. I know that Rabbi Benyamin came a long distance. He's not going to give us a lecture, but he's going to give us a few words on this high holy day. I mean, not high holy, on this holy day. He's going to do the Adon Olam. Okay, so you see how considerate he's been? He's going to sing for us. And while we collect the tithe and offering, and after that we'll adjourn and go down and have a kiddush. You're invited if you'd like to stay. And of course, then we'll be continuing with the counting of the Omer, because the counting of the Omer is the bridge between Pesach and Shavuot.
Amen.
The season of our freedom, but we're not totally free, because on Pesach we were freed from the physical bondage. But it's through the spiritual development of our character and our mind, and reaching up to where we're given the Torah, and we get those instructions, that we truly become free when we free the mind. With that, we bring
Rabbi, I have a request. Sister Rabbi came all the way from Philadelphia and his wife. I would not expect them to sing a song for us, please.
She went downstairs.
We're gonna close our email. We're gonna come back.
We have announcements.
Okay, we just go right on to that.
Shabbat Shalom again. All praises to the Most High. I just want to take the time out to thank Raphael. He has the television going on downstairs. So I've been begging him for months because I felt like I never could hear the lectures. So I was so happy and blessed today that it's working. And the lectures of Chief Rabbi Benyamin and Moreh Dan on the money as usual. I'm so blessed y'all came, and y'all always welcome to come back, and we definitely have plenty of food for everybody for Kiddush. So I just want to do a couple of announcements. I'm sorry. Okay, so May 11th is Levi's Bar Mitzvah at Temple Beth El. If you need the address, I'll give that to you. And next Saturday, like I said, we won't be able to do Kiddush downstairs because they're going to be renovation for the temple, so we're going to have a light Kiddush up here. Also, if anybody's available after service, if they can help me bring the tables upstairs, because they're going to be doing a lot of work this week. Also, I'll be getting back to everybody in regards to the journal for the centennial that's coming up August 12th to August 19th. If you have any historic pictures, please let me know, because we want to put them in the journal. If you want to buy a page, half a page, full page, color page, etc., I'll give you the cost of that next week. Concluding, DCP, you have a event coming up in May?
Yes. All time, Shabbat Shalom. So we do have Unity Weekend coming up, May 25th and May 26th. I will not get into the event on May 26th. At another time, I will drop a flyer off and let y'all have that information. But on the Sabbath, for May 25th, we will be at Restoration Plaza, which is located downtown Brooklyn, I believe, at 1368 Fulton Street. If that needs to be corrected, I'll go from there. We will be there from 11 a.m. in the morning, and we'll be there until about sundown. I do realize that some people were there last year. Everybody is invited. We plan to have a wonderful time. If you guys need anything that we can accommodate y'all with, that's all right. We will have a light lunch for all of our visitors, which are you guys. Even though we're all family, we will have some lunch for you. And we plan to have a wonderful weekend. This is one of our annual events. The fundraiser is the next day. Again, I won't get into that. But we ask that you all come out. Please be a part of what's going on. And as usual, we love your company. Most High bless you all.
Yeah, last year me and my mom went. We had a great time. tent, nice weather. It was very good. Okay, and I'm concluding with a holiday card that we received from Rabbi Bethel's daughter. Shalom, brothers and sisters of Beth Elohim Hebrew Congregation. Wishing you all a joyful Passover, Chag Sameach, season reflecting on our history and tradition that is filled with many blessings from our Father. May we all have a blessed year. Torah blessings. Love, RAPHAEL, Yisrael. And with that, I want to say Shabbat Shalom and everybody have a blessed week.
That's coming from Hawaii.
And, oh yeah, the card is coming from Hawaii. Yeah, Rabbi Bethel's daughter is in Hawaii. And also we have Sharon's card going around. And when you get a chance, you can sign it. Everybody have a blessed week and Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah. We all ready? We're ready to partake of the Kiddush Continuous Feast downstairs.
I'd like to make an announcement. I reached my $500 pledge. Thank you for everybody who donated or overcharged. Anybody wants orders? I have Chief Rabbi Matthews now. Picture for the centennial. Everybody can keep track of keeping the Omer. And I'd like to say Baruch Hashem. Let's keep the pledges going. And I'm going to exceed because I got some IOUs. And we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it going.
Keep climbing higher and higher
Over.
and higher. Hallelujah. As we go downstairs, wash your hands. We partake of this beautiful feast. Continue on page 414. Would you please stand? Hear, O Yisrael. The eternal power, the eternal is one. Shema Yisrael Adonai May He who bless our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may He bless this entire holy congregation along with other holy congregation, them, their wives, their sons and daughters, and all that belongs to them, those who dedicate the Knesset for prayer, those who enter them to pray, those who give lamb for illumination and wine for Kiddush and Havdalah, bread for guests and charity for the poor, and all bow faithfully in the needs of the community. May the Holy One pay them the reward, may He remove from them every affliction, may He heal our entire body, and may He forgive our sins and iniquity, and may He send us blessings and success to all our handiwork with all our brethren in Yisrael. Let us say, hallelujah. Hallelujah. May the Eternal bless you and keep you. May the Eternal shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Eternal lift up His face unto you, and may He give you peace. You shall put my name upon them, and I shall bless them. And we on earth say hallelujah.